The night was cold, and the wind howled through the empty streets like a wounded animal. You sat alone, staring at your phone, waiting for a reply that never came. It was strange. Just a few weeks ago, things had been different. Conversations flowed effortlessly, laughter filled the air, and trust was unshakable. But now there was only silence. Something had changed. At first, you brushed it off. Maybe they were just busy, caught up in their own lives. But deep down, a nagging feeling gnawed at you. The kind of feeling that keeps you awake at night, whispering questions you don't want to answer. And then you started noticing the little things, subtle shifts in behavior, unanswered calls, the way their eyes darted away when they saw you. It wasn't your imagination. Someone was pulling them away. But who? Then the whispers began. Soft, venomous words disguised concern. You overheard your name in hushed conversations. Saw fleeting glances filled with something sinister. You weren't paranoid. No, you were being played. And the worst part? You knew exactly who was behind it. 2 women. They weren't your enemies, at least not at first. They smiled in your face, spoke in warm tones, acted like they had your best interests at heart. But beneath their pleasant facades, something dark lurked, a quiet, calculated malice. They didn't need to attack you directly. They just needed to plant the right seeds of doubt in someone else's mind. And they did it masterfully. You weren't sure when it started, but you could trace back the patterns. One day, everything was fine. The next, you noticed a hesitation in the way they spoke to you, a question hanging in the air, silent but deadly. That's how manipulation works. It doesn't come as a sudden storm. It creeps in like a slow poison, infecting thoughts, distorting truths. At first, the person being influenced didn't even realize it. That's the scary part. They thought they were forming their own opinions, making their own decisions. But in reality, every thought, every doubt, every suspicion was carefully placed. Like a puppeteer pulling invisible strings, the 2 women controlled the narrative, ensuring that by the time you noticed, the damage was already done. You saw it in their eyes, the way they looked at you differently, as if they were questioning everything they once believed about you. It stung, not because of betrayal, but because of how easy it was to manipulate someone against you, how fragile trust could be, how a few carefully placed words could undo years of loyalty. But why? Why would they do this? What did they gain from turning someone against you? You racked your brain, searching for an answer. Did you wrong them? No. Did they have something to gain? Maybe. Or maybe, just maybe, they simply enjoyed the power, the thrill of control, the ability to dictate someone's reality, to rewrite history with nothing more than subtle suggestions. And now, you were the villain in their story. The person you cared about, trusted, was slipping away, and you felt powerless to stop it. Every attempt to reach out was met with cold responses, empty words, or complete avoidance. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash, knowing you couldn't do anything to change the outcome. But here's the thing about truth. No matter how much people try to bury it, no matter how many lies are whispered in the dark, the truth has a way of resurfacing. Maybe not immediately, maybe not even soon, but one day, the fog would lift and the person they turned against you would finally see. Because the truth is like a fire. It burns through deception, leaving only what's real. And when that day comes, when the manipulation unravels, when the lies collapse under their own weight, the people who betrayed you will realize something terrifying. You never needed to destroy them. They did it to themselves. But the question remains, how do you survive until that day? How do you endure the storm, knowing that the battle is being fought in shadows, where you have no control? You have 2 choices. Let it break you, or rise above it. And that's when you decide, enough is enough. No more waiting. No more hoping things would change on their own. You needed to fight back, not with anger, not with revenge, but with something far more powerful. Clarity. It was time to expose the truth, to shine a light so bright that the lies would have nowhere to hide. But how do you confront an enemy who works in whispers? That's when you realize you don't. You don't play their game. You don't engage in their manipulation. Because the moment you do, you're giving them exactly what they want. Instead, You focus on something they never expected. You focus on yourself. Because while they're busy trying to destroy you, you're getting stronger. While they spread lies, you're building something real. While they manipulate, you're proving, without words, that their influence means nothing. And that's how you win, not by fighting fire with fire, but by showing that no fire they create can burn down what you've built. And so, you take a deep breath, look in the mirror, and remind yourself of the truth. Their words don't define you. Their lies don't break you. And no matter how much they try to turn others against you, the truth will always be louder. The days passed, and the weight of silence grew heavier. The person you once trusted, once laughed with, once confided in, was now a stranger. You could feel it in the way they spoke to you, the way their messages became shorter, the way they hesitated before answering. It wasn't just distance. It was doubt. But what stung the most wasn't the doubt itself. It was knowing that someone had planted it there. The two women moved like shadows, speaking in half-truths, their voices laced with concern. That's how they operated. Not outright accusations, not blatant lies, but carefully crafted suggestions. I just think you should be careful. I've heard some things. I don't know if they're true, but I wouldn't want you to get hurt. It was never direct, never obvious, but it was enough. You saw in their eyes the hesitation, the questioning, the slow unraveling of trust. And yet you said nothing. Not because you didn't want to, but because you knew the truth. When someone is under the influence of manipulation, confronting them only pushes them further away. So you did something they never expected. You let them go, not in anger, not in defeat, but in understanding. Because people don't see the truth when you force it on them. They see it when they're ready. And so you step back. At first, it hurt. Every fiber of your being wanted to scream, to fight, to shake them until they realized what was happening. But instead, you stayed silent, watching as the whispers continued, as the influence deepened. But here's the thing about manipulation. It only works for so long. Because no matter how skilled someone is at planting doubt, at twisting reality, at controlling a narrative, eventually, the cracks begin to show. And that's exactly what happened. It started small, a contradiction here, a slip up there, tiny inconsistencies in their stories that didn't quite add up. The person who had turned against you started to notice. At first, they ignored it, brushed it off as nothing. But the mind is a powerful thing, and once doubt creeps in, it's impossible to unsee the truth. One day, a conversation didn't match up. Another day, a detail didn't make sense. And then the realization hit them. They had been played. They had believed lies. They had pushed away someone who was nothing but loyal to them, all because of the quiet manipulations of two people who thrived on control. And that's when the shift happened. It wasn't immediate. It never is. But you noticed the way their messages started coming in again, how their words carried something new, something heavier. Regret. Hey, I've been thinking about some things. I feel like I might have misunderstood you. Can we talk? And in that moment, you had a choice. Do you let them back in? Do you make them feel the pain they made you feel? Or do you rise above it? You already knew the answer. Because revenge doesn't fix anything. Bitterness doesn't heal. And carrying resentment only poisons you, not them. So you listen, not to give them an easy way out, not to excuse what happened, but because you understand something most people never do. People are fallible. They get influenced. They make mistakes. They let others plant seeds in their minds, and sometimes they water those seeds without realizing they were weeds. It doesn't mean they're bad. It means they're human. And so, as they sat in front of you, fumble with their words, try to explain, try to apologize, you let them speak. And when they were done, you smiled. Not because you forgot, but because you'd already moved on. The past no longer controlled you. The lies no longer defined you. And the two women who had worked so hard to tear you down, they had already lost. Because in the end, the truth always wins. And the people who try to destroy others, they destroy themselves.